Hello students, welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nandkyolier, and in this session we're going to talk about the two new bills which have been introduced in the parliament. We will see what is the context of those bills and what do they aim to do. So these two bills are, first one is the Central Excise Amendment Bill. Okay? And the second one is the Health and National Security Cess Bill. So these two bills have been introduced in the parliament, the Central Excise Amendment Bill and the Health Security and National Security Cess Bill. So let's start with the first one. Before we see what this bill is going to do, let us start with the context of everything. What is the backstory over here? So for that, we'll have to go back to 2017. What happened in 2017? GST was implemented across the nation. GST was implemented. Now with the implementation of GST, something else was introduced. That was the GST compensation cess, right? A GST compensation cess was introduced. Compensation for whom? Compensation for the states for any shortfall in revenue that they might have to face due to the implementation of GST. So the center was going to compensate these states for the implementation because of the implementation of GST for any shortfall in their revenue, and this was going to be done by the GST compensation cess. All the revenue generated from this cess was going to go to the states. And this was not going to continue for an indefinite period of time. This was going to continue only for 5 years, 2017 to 2022. A GST compensation cess was to be levied on certain items, and all the revenue that was generated from this cess was to go to the states, right? 5 years, 2017 to 2022. Did it end in 2022? No. Because something else happened in 2020 that shook the economy of the entire world. What happened in 2020? The world was suffering with COVID. The economy of the world was suffering with COVID. Same for India. So in India also, the central government was finding it difficult to compensate the states because the GST collections went down, the revenue went down. So revenue was not being generated. How will the center compensate the states? So naturally, the center had to borrow money from the market. In order to compensate the states, the center had to borrow money from the market. And you know, when you borrow money, there is a principal amount, and what else? There is also an interest that you have to pay on that loan. So in case of India, if we talk about the figures over here, the principal amount that India borrowed was somewhere around 2.7 lakh CR, and the interest itself was 50,000 CR. I'm telling you the figures because these are not small numbers. India had to borrow a lot in order to compensate the states for any shortfall in their revenue. And because COVID happened, center was finding it difficult, so it had to borrow money from outside. Now the problem here is that the GST compensation cess is not to continue for an indefinite period. Ideally, it had to end in 2022. And that is what's going to happen even now. This will not continue for very long. This is going to be phased out. As planned, it is going to be phased out. And this compensation cess was levied on luxury or your sin goods. Okay, luxury goods, sin goods, like you'll have your luxury cars, you have tobacco and related products. So the compensation cess is going to be phased out. When the compensation cess is phased out, it means that the revenue is going to fall. And because of that, the government now has said that while the GST compensation cess is going to phase out, it is still going to continue for tobacco and related products till the time the complete loan, both principal and interest, till the time the complete loan is repaid. Till then, the cess is going to continue. After that, the cess will no longer continue. Tobacco and tobacco-related products will not face a GST compensation cess once the entire loan is paid off. Now, does this mean that now tobacco and related products are going to get cheaper? No. Because in place of this, something else is going to happen. So let's see a comparison over here. Right now, you have a GST compensation cess. So if I talk about the tobacco products, A, there is GST. B, there is this compensation cess. And what else? We know that there is a Central Excise duty. Correct? There's a triple taxation system on tobacco and related products. Now I told you that this will go. So now tobacco is going to have GST and B, the Central Excise duty. But I also told you that these products are not going to get cheaper, which means that the Central Excise duty is going to increase because the government wants to keep the tax incidence same on these products. Tax incidence, the total tax that you will have to pay on a product, the government wants to keep it the same for tobacco and related products. That is why now the Central Excise duty is going to increase, and because it is going to increase, that increase is basically proposed in this bill that we talked about. The Central Excise Amendment Bill. This talks about increasing the Central Excise duty on the tobacco and related products once this GST compensation cess is phased out for these products. So this is what the bill proposes. And what actually is the need to increase the tax over here? I told you that the government wants to keep this the same, tax incidence has to be the same, because this is a health hazard. This is a risk to public health, and government is obliged to improve the health of the public. There is a DPSP, Article 47, that the government will have to work in towards improving the public health, and that is why also the government wants to keep increasing taxes, or it deliberately wants to keep these products expensive so that not a lot of people can afford them and people feel demotivated in buying them. So this is one of the major reasons that the government wants to keep these products very, very expensive, and that is why the Central Excise duty is going to increase. Other than this, we like it or not, but these products are a huge source of revenue for the government. Government earns a lot of revenue by taxing such products, by taxing such sin goods. That is why also these tobacco and related products are not going to go very, very cheap, because it is a major source of revenue for the government also. So A, we want to protect the health of the public, and B, we also want to keep our tax collections intact. So the tax incidence is not really going to fall when it comes to tobacco and related products. That is why we have the Central Excise Amendment Bill. So I hope the first one is clear. Now let's move to the second bill, which was the Health and National Security Cess Bill. So please focus on the word cess over here. Cess, we know, is levied for a particular purpose, for a specific purpose, and this is going to be levied on pan masala and related products. Now, what purpose is this going to solve over here? So pan masala industry basically right now has a major challenge. The government basically has a major challenge with these pan masala manufacturers, and that is that these manufacturers basically, they underreport their production. We are majorly dealing with the MSME sector over here. They are small and medium-sized manufacturers, and they underreport their production because it is very easy to stuff larger things, larger quantities into smaller packets. So they underestimate, they underreport their production, and that is what leads to tax evasion. The government is not able to earn as much tax as it should when it comes to pan masala and related products, because these companies, these manufacturers, they underreport their production. So to deal with this cess has been introduced, and this cess is going to focus on the capacity. Capacity of what? Machines. So this is a capacity based tax. This cess is actually a capacity based tax. So what is going to happen here? All these manufacturers, they will have to report not their production, but the capacity of what? Of their machines. And then the government is going to charge on that. To understand with an example over here, let's say there is a manufacturer, okay, and that manufacturer has two machines of pouch making for these pan masala. There are two pouch making machines. Each machine has a capacity of producing 5,000 pouches. Okay, there is a capacity that each machine can produce 5,000 pouches. Now these manufacturers, what they used to do, let's say hypothetically this manufacturer just reports that we produced only 2,000 pouches. Okay, so irrespective of the capacity, the producer just says that we produced 2,000 pouches. But the government now is wanting to do away or drift from this strategy, that it is now not going to charge on what these people are saying, what these people are reporting. Instead, it is going to charge on the capacity. So the producer will have to report the capacity of the machines. I have two machines, each machine can produce 5,000 pouches. So the government is going to charge me on 10,000 pouches, irrespective of how much or what production am I reporting. The government is going to charge on my capacity and not the production that I reported. I hope that is clear, because these companies, they have a problem of underreporting. These small sector, these medium-sized companies, they have a problem of underreporting over here. This leads to tax evasion and a shortfall in revenue for the government. So now the government has come up with a capacity-based tax, which is the Health Security and National Security Cess Bill. So that is what these two bills aim at doing, and the goal here is to keep the revenue also intact and also work towards the welfare of the people, because we want to let the people know that this is a public health hazard. Tobacco and related products, pan masala, they are public health hazards and we should keep away from them. So that was all for this video. I hope you were able to understand everything that we discussed over here. Now let us look at a practice question for prelims. With reference to the recent taxation reforms proposed for sin goods such as tobacco and pan masala in India, consider the following statements. 1. The Central Excise Amendment Bill 2025 seeks to establish a revised excise duty structure specifically for tobacco products. 2. The newly proposed Health and National Security Cess is intended to be levied on pan masala and similar notified products. 3. A capacity-based cess is calculated on the basis of machine output capability rather than self-reported production figures. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? Please note down the options over here. A. 1 only. B. 1 and 2 only. C. 2 and 3 only. And D. 1, 2 and 3. 1 only, 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. Please provide your answers in the comment section and we will meet in a new video. Thank you for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.